from Los Angeles, California. This is What Does Danné Say? And now, your host, Danné Montague King.
Hello everybody, welcome to yet another thrilling episode of What Does Danné Say? Now, I was just thinking about past episodes this morning before we went on camera. I used to use this platform to get attention. We would always follow the attention getting with the serious science, always. I would never do anything without that. But we used humor and shock and, certain things that would catch people's eye instead of just sitting there in front of a camera like a talking head. Like those commercials we see now on Facebook. There's this 20-year-long video about a certain thing like tetanus or some other physical ailment. And this whole story, damn well at the end of it they're going to sell a product, but you're still listening to it all. It's a talking head just to see what product. Now I try to just scroll down and see what the heck they are selling, and usually it's nothing I couldn't do on my own. But anyway, I do want to approach today's podcast with all seriousness because it is something that I've had as a dream for a very long time. And that is finally we're launching our Black Skin Matters campaign. The journey to this point is kind of extraordinary because I didn't just wake up one day and say, we're going to put together protocol and training and products just for black skin. That's not how it happened. Everything in my entire career has happened in real life, real time, and with particular circumstances. And sometimes without any real plan. It's just a question of observation of what you're doing and collecting information as you go along in your career. And if we go back to the 70s in Chicago, I was at a very high-end clinic on Pearson Street, right off Michigan Avenue, very exclusive address in an old historical brownstone called Hartwell House. And I also was very involved with the black community at that time, simply because years later in Hot Springs, Arkansas, it was a very wealthy black lady, Mary Anderson, who owned the Queen of the Sea restaurants in Chicago, that actually helped me get to Chicago after everything fell apart in Hot Springs. And you can see all that in the up-and-coming film Maybelline Prince, quite dramatic. But it was Mary who actually gave me my start in Chicago in black skin. And because of that connection, I ended up becoming a part of the National Democratic Coalition for Black Women. I had all that clientele base. I did lectures and classes for them. I met everybody that was anybody in Chicago politics at the time, Jesse Jackson's wife, Jackie, everybody. And then this school approached me. There was a black school downtown. It wasn't owned by black people. It was a Jewish family that had this beauty school for a long, long time. And they happened to recognize that there was a need in the black community for cosmetologists. There wasn't even any estheticians licensed back then. It was just beauty school students. So I was invited to do classes. I charged $300 a week, and I would go in and teach skin to these people. I also would go out to the South Side where they had an additional school, same ownership, which was all black students, and also do lectures and things out there. Sometimes in the middle of winter in the snow, I'd be on the L trains freezing to death, but we went out there. Long story short, when I left Chicago, it was about a week before I left, I was coming down the stairs from the clinic, and there was all these girl students from the school in their little white uniforms jumping up and down. And I go, "Hi girls, how are you?" Because I'd seen them in my classes. And they said, "Well, you were complaining that you weren't making enough money for the classes and everything," which I was, and that you could do more and you needed money. So we went to a credit union, and guess what? We got the money. You could imagine I was brokenhearted. I just didn't know what to say because I'd already made my plans. I already had turned over the clinic and was going to be leaving in a couple of days. I never forgot the look on their faces. I kept saying, we're going to go back to Chicago someday, which we have, and we're going to, push this program even further. That led to the years in South Africa, further research on black skin. Quite an extraordinary story, actually. I cut my teeth in the townships. These were the black areas around Johannesburg, where they had some doctors and some therapists, not many, but poor people that needed treatment on their skin. And so the clinic that we had at that time catered to people coming in with all kinds of horrible problems. There was ochronosis rampant in South Africa. Ochronosis is a disease of the skin, very common in the black community in South Africa, where they use all kinds of weird bleaching compounds and everything else that they can think of that are sold to them by very unscrupulous pharmacists who mix up like 7, 8, 9, 10% hydroquinone, household bleach, unbelievable things they put into lotions and sell these poor people for a few Kruger Rand, and it was causing them even more problems. And these are the people that we came across in the research. So that taught me even more, not only at the scientific level, but at the grassroots personal level and people and their habits and traditions and everything. And that's how it went. In the 70s in Chicago, there wasn't many people doing what I did. We had Iona of Hungary, we had Elizabeth Arden's, we had Lily Daché. There was a few other these sort of European doyens of skin that were making a fortune in the business because of their mysterious formulas from Hungary with the eggs from such and such and blah, blah, blah. A lot of tomfoolery, but having said that, the European educators in beauty therapy were much more advanced than what we had here in the United States. That's changed a lot, but still some of that exists. And so they were the ones at the top of the heap. Here comes me, this weird guy. I wasn't really doing facials. I wasn't doing luxury spas. I wasn't doing Elizabeth Arden's or any of that stuff. I was doing skin revision. And this started attracting a lot of attention. And this built up over a period of time until I realized that I really wanted to be back in California, where I started. There was no esthetician license at that time at all. In fact, it's so ironic that our DMK Pittsburgh, our very first distributor, way back years ago before I had anybody else overseas, and Ed and Karen Kroll up in Pittsburgh are still alive to this day, still distributors. We started educating them as well. And this segued into a beauty school in Maryland, close to Baltimore, owned by, it was called Von Lee's School of Beauty. It was Carol Walderman. She was an iconic esthetician teacher at that time, very, very famous, award-winning, many, many things. She actually turned her whole school, which was black because she had a lot of government grants given to her at that time, and she just changed everything to DMK. She changed the colors of the school. She threw all of the products out, machines, whatever. But Von Lee was all DMK. And many of the black girls that had graduated from those classes are grown-up women now, older women, and they have clinics, and they are still doing DMK. And I run into them at trade shows and that every once in a while. They remember me, this kind of thing. So it became apparent to me that we had to expand this education because it's not new to us. Black skin is not new. I've been working on this for many, many years. But putting together a program with a name on it is something that we are doing, and that is Black Skin Matters. This will be completely new to a lot of people, and it's not easy to do because you have to have, in addition to a manual, you have to have a theory to back that up. You can't just have a manual that says, okay, put this product on, put this and this and this on. You have to go through the theory of why is this skin type different? What is the chemistry of black skin? Why are we using things on black people that we may not use on other ethnicities? And so on. And I never really addressed this individually before because I figured, well, we talk about it in our training classes and everything. We've had loads and loads of black students, but it just didn't take off. And I heard some rumors that some of the DMK estheticians that were black were leaving DMK simply because they didn't feel there was enough education focusing on just black skin. That's true and not true. Yes, we had the education, but no, we did not name it. And you have to name something, and otherwise you won't be getting a big movement about it. People won't know. There will be no coalition that promotes it. So I knew that that had to be put together, this whole coalition, protocol, marketing, the whole 9 yards, not to mention the actual hands-on training as described in the manuals. It was Najma Khan, who is a South African distributor. She is a woman of color herself, beautiful young Indian woman, very strong. Excuse me. She's with me for many, many years in South Africa, from a teenage girl all the way up to this full-blown, very beautiful professional woman with her wonderful family, her husband and kids. And she actually, listening to my complaint about wanting to do something special like this, she actually took it upon herself to design a program called Don't Mess With My Skin. And I never ever thought about naming something like that. I thought it was fantastic. So she put the whole thing together. It took about a week. They launched it in Johannesburg. I went over to Johannesburg. The room was filled with black educators, authors, activists, professional models from South African television and movie. All black people were there to listen to this, and people from the general public. Everybody came. It was enormously successful. Najma was asked to be on television. I was asked to do 100 interviews during the rest of that week. I flew down to Cape Town, then we went to Durban, and it was an enormous success. And to this day, 90% of DMK South Africa clients are black people. Same thing can be applied here. Traditions are different. People have different thoughts about the community in both countries. Anybody that is a black person from here that's traveled with me to South Africa, they were always surprised to see they weren't as regarded the same as other South African black people were. It's just a different mindset. Here it's more political. There it was political, but the fight wasn't against everybody wanting to have lighter skin. That was the mindset in the community. If the baby was a lighter tone, they'd get a better husband, get a better wife, better job. If their hair quality was looser and different, it was, all of that which is completely wrong. And my message was, every baby on this planet is born with perfect skin, regardless of ethnicity, color, tone, pigment, whatever. It's what we do with our life later on that gives us all of the anomalies that we look in the mirror and we don't like. In the case of black skin, the ashes, which is called the ashes, is redundant cell buildup, hyperpigmentation, these kind of things. Not so much age management as with the Caucasian race. One of the examples I'd use is put an old lady of 55, that sounds so young now, I'm 80. I can't say old person at 55. Well, let's just say a Caucasian lady of 55 up against a black lady of 55, similar lifestyles. Who looks older? Well, always the Caucasian lady, of course. So age management was not the top of the list, although it's creeping up there now. It was mostly hyperpigmentation, razor bump syndrome in the male, various other things that happened exclusive on a general level to black skin. Going back to South Africa, I have been asked, how did I choose South Africa for black skin research in the first place? Well, I didn't. Real research is not sitting down in a lab with a lot of crystal beakers and all, like you see in science fiction movies. It's the ability to observe things as you go along and put them into place where they belong in regards to a formula, a protocol, anything you're doing. It comes from your observations along the way. That's real research. It's like pieces of a big puzzle. And I was just born with this kind of weird mind that does that. I've done that since I was a little boy, always asking questions, questioning everything, not taking anything at face value. Has to be logical. And my teachers in school were absolutely fed up with me, always saying, yes, but, how? Shut up. Remember one teacher at a private school I attended, his name was Mr. Vermont. I kept doing this to him when he would teach a class, and finally one day, to my shock, and I was a little boy, this big, tall, gaunt, red-headed guy came up to me with his face bright red. He goes, "Shut up, Danné King. Leave this room. You're an old man in a little boy's body." I didn't know what he meant by that. The fact is, I question everything, and I still do. We have a brilliant, brilliant man here with us on staff, Dr. J. Lukonde. Most of you have seen him, heard him. Brilliant, absolutely a genius. And yet I do the same to him. He starts telling me theory and all of this, and of course some of his $25 words and his acronyms and all of that in Latin. I stop and say, okay, what does that mean? Tell me how that works. How does that work at the cell level? And that's how I unearth things and how I formulate and how I put together teaching syllabus with the help of educators. Okay? So I would say South Africa chose me. The original distributor was not focusing on black skin at all because this was before the apartheid. And I guess in the back of her mind and their mind, the family, they didn't think of black people like I did. They were Afrikaners. And they had large staffs of black people that all lived in a compound next to their property. And everybody wore a blue jumpsuit, bare feet. I mean, it really was that way. And I kept telling them, I said, look, you have to do something for the black community here in Africa. It's a black nation. Oh, no, there's no money, whatever, blah, 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 you know. Well, I disagreed because I could see the future, and I could see a country that was undergoing huge political unrest, and I knew things would change. Now, I'm not a politician, so I don't speak my views on politics. You'd be surprised. I'm somewhat more conservative than most people think, but I'm also very, very pragmatic about how things are with people. And so they didn't listen to me. And it wasn't until the second distributor came along with Najma Khan years later that I had, deeply gone into all that I picked up during those early years, going to the townships, working on people. I did get them to agree to a pro bono program, and that meant that the gal that was the distributor, she would actually use her domestic staff as before and afters. She'd get other people off the street. She was forward-thinking enough, I think, at the time, she was only 26 years old, to see that I might be right about the future. So we did do a lot of work, but there was no main focus on it, again, because of the money situation. Well, the money situation changed, as I knew it would, and today, as I said, we have 90% clientele that in the black community and Indian in South Africa with DMK. I've been asked to show a case study of that time, and of course we've got boxes and boxes and boxes of old slides and case studies from years back out in the warehouse. So at the minute I'm saying this, I'm saying before this podcast is released, I'll go get one, and I will get a particular one because I'll never forget her. She did have a severe case of ochronosis. She was the housekeeper for one of the predominant clients. And she was buying all kinds of awful cream. She told me personally from pharmacies that didn't care. They just wanted to make money. And I told her I'm glad she came because she was one step to basal cell carcinoma. That's what ochronosis is. If you want to Google ochronosis, you can and see. So here's the before and after of her. This, as I recall, this took about 2 months. I think it was 2 months. With professional treatment and home prescriptives. As you can see, the main part of this burgeoning disease was completely stopped, and then her skin eventually went back to normal. Okay. And what came out of all of this early work? Well, two of my most prized possessions from this early work kind of surprised me the first time I got this. It was an accommodation from Zulu King Mongapi Buthelezi, who was in charge of, he was a PM in charge of housing for displaced African people that came in from the bush seeking, places to live, which was not an easy job. I personally think Buthelezi should have been, Prime Minister or whatever of South Africa entirely. That was just my personal opinion. I never met the other one, Mandela. But Buthelezi had a long talk with me at Cape Town, Parliament House in Cape Town, and he was a deeply intelligent, very religious man. And what I was telling him, he was taking as promises. And he did issue me accommodation. He gave me his book and he signed it and all of this. 30 years later, just 2 or 3 years ago, Najma Khan shows up at one of our awards, our yearly award here, banquet and dinner, and she handed me another huge accommodation from Zulu King Buthelezi. It's outside my office right now, and it is one of my prized possessions. But what he said in it was, that struck me, was that he'd been watching. Now this is an example to everybody out here in this field. People watch you, so be sure what you do, be sure what you say, because it does resonate and it can change people's lives. He said right in this accommodation, I have been watching you for 30 years since I first met you, and I'm so happy to see someone that actually fulfills their promises. And that meant the world to me, because I didn't think about it. I just did the work. You know, I don't sit down and plot every day, oh, I'm going to create this product and that product. I just go out and do the work and then use it all as I go along as research to do other work. That's how I operate. Now, this brings me to new products, new this, new that. Some of you may have heard us talk already about Chromozyme. Okay, Chromozyme is in the works. It is under DMK MD. That's why everything says Zyme on it, and it's a completely new look at pigmentation and the cause of it and how to deal with it before it even gets started. So far, we're very successful by inhibiting with our inhibitors and our treatments. So we have good results already. But Chromozyme promises to make things move along much faster, which will be a huge service to all of our educators and all of our clients around the world, simply because we're in an increasingly fast-paced world. The internet, everything is in our face. Every minute of every day when you switch on the news. And not that we'll be, well, we could be on the news. I've been on the news before. But, you know, the thing is, people's lives are fuller and fuller and fuller. There's every household actually has, you know, 2-income households a lot of times. We need to do things a little faster, but we still have to have the results. So everything we make takes a long time to bring to the market. We don't just, boom, Chromozyme, new product. No. But it is almost ready. We've had some outstanding results with it. I have to go by theory and scientific information first. That's our first step. And then the second step is to see how it all works. Well, the second step is how to implement the new formulas and so on. And the third step is to document how they work and the time element and how many different people. We've got a call out right now for people who sign up for Chromozyme clinical studies. More and more pigmentation people. Bring it on. Every kind. We don't care. All right. Now, did we depart from our old ways of doing pigmentation? No. No, we don't throw baby out with the bathwater. I never liked that, because all treatments, all protocol is predicated upon logic and science and what the body really wants to heal itself. These things don't change. So we're not changing anything. We're simply adding on and making things a little faster, a little bit more better for general use and for focused use. You know, we have to cover all those aspects in therapy, not just, oh, here's a new product with polypeptide D or whatever, you know, popular buzzword ingredient is, you know, being out on the media, which you see every day. You can go on Facebook. I see so many skin things. And I thought, you know, these ads should make our therapists furious, because they're promising instant results or even using scientific terms now. This is something I would teach therapists to do when they're diagnosing. The marketing people are now using those words like melasma. Now that's common on television, on Facebook, oh, you have a melasma. And even the woman saying, I had a melasma and I tried everything and nothing worked, but I put this product on and it's gone. That'd be nice if that were true, but it's not true. I'm sorry, I wish it was. You know, I could probably be a trillionaire by now if I went over the counter. But no, it takes time to circumvent these kind of anomalies because they're not natural. Pigmentation is skin under defense from some kind of trauma, whether it be exterior, inflammatory, or interior, hormonal, which is known as passive pigmentation. I think that Black Skin Matters is going to be a major, major turnaround in this country. And of course, internationally as well, because what we do here also influences our longtime therapists overseas, including all of our doctors in Ukraine and other countries. They all pay attention to what we're doing here. And that's very ironic because some of our best before and afters, such as scar revision and even our StemZyme medical trials and all, were done by our overseas doctors. We owe them a great deal of gratitude, but they still watch what we do here. So we're putting together marketing plans for this. We're putting together a actual protocol, manual, everything else is all being put together. It's all written. It's already been done. And we have tons and tons of before and afters and all that, but it has to be formatted. So I don't have to think about it anymore. It just goes out to our educators, and we know they're teaching it all the same everywhere. Because we can't just say, oh, here, take these tools and work on black skin. They have to have the theory, they have to have everything behind it to go ahead and satisfy their clients and build their clientele. I think this kind of movement does warrant scholarships. I remember back in the day when Von Lee School, which, as I said earlier, catered to mostly black estheticians, was all on government grants. Well, we are going to be probably participating in a little bit of lobbying on that because I was very upset when the government withdrew their grant from Von Lee. And of course, Carol was near retirement age and she just kind of retired because the students weren't coming in as much anymore. And I understand that. You know, I'm 80 and everybody says I should think about retirement, and I will, but not yet. There's too many things left to do. Some specific initiatives to this Black Skin Matters movement will be education. Education is the biggie. Not only should the therapist be educated, but the client has to be educated. How can you expect them to maintain their skin on a regular basis, to have full compliance, unless they have full knowledge of what's going on? Once you teach them, they're yours for life. They will do what you say. Especially men, I've noticed that over the years, and black men in particular. Probably our biggest clients way back in the day were black guys with the razor bump syndrome. I even had an old video, I can dig it out somewhere, in South Africa where I'm explaining how razor bumps happen in black men and what to do about it, because it's very annoying to them. Most can't even shave normally because of the razor bump syndrome. I think scholarships will be important. We've already kind of started a scholarship program. What we have to do now with this scholarship program, I've already endowed 2 people, but we have to do it on a larger basis and put it all together as a program. There would have to be a codicil for how do you get into this program? What do we need to see? What do you have to do to prove that you should be a recipient of a scholarship? If someone comes in and says, oh, I don't have any money, but I know you're doing a scholarship, first of all, you have to have, in the United States, you have to have a state license, a piece of paper that says you can touch people and pay and get paid. But basically, we'd be looking at not so much your past education or anything like that, but your passion, the questions that you answer from us. We're going to have a questionnaire, and by an interview. And once we are satisfied that you're going to be a viable person for the scholarship, we will endow scholarships. I've tried it before in kind of a casual way with young people I thought would be great. I have one person that's now standing in my mind, I'm not going to mention any names, and they let me down. they fooled around, they didn't do anything, and then they'd come back and say, well, I need to buy a product for that. No, no, no. You have to follow the scholarship rules, go through the program, and come out the other end, and then you will be full-fledged DMK paramedical therapists. Let me put out a call to action now. What can we do now while we're finishing off the whole Black Skin Matters protocol and putting dates up? We'll be launching it in various areas of the country. Right now, you can help out a lot by sharing your before and after pictures if you're working on black skin. We would love to have those in. We always give full credit to the doctor or the esthetician who performed the procedures. If you're doing before and afters to do this with us, we'll promote your clinic, but it has to be kind of professional. Always have the same light, everything. Don't, you can alter skin results just by changing the light. Like if you could see what I really looked like without this big studio light, I probably look okay. In my mind, I don't. But I drive our director, Seth, crazy with the lighting. But I have learned lighting. We don't want that kind. We want just regular, even light, same pose, same everything. Don't try to have them going like this before and then like this after. No expression. And share it with us. Some of the people might not want their, before and afters on the public forum, so we offer to pixel their eyes out, of course. And they have to sign a model's release from you. And if you don't have those, we'll be happy to supply you with a template where you have their permission, because you never know about people. I'm a dummy. I just assume everybody's wonderful and nice and wants to share, and then all of a sudden, especially celebrities, we have some really wonderful celebrities who are very generous. Angela Bassett is probably at the top of the list, and then others. But sometimes we'll work on a celebrity and we mention pictures or something and their people appear with their hand out. You're not using my client, until we get X amount of money. So I'm very leery of celebrities. If a celebrity comes to me and says, well, if you can give me a big discount or whatever, I'll endorse, well, let's all settle that up front so that we're not surprised later, afterwards. But so far, we've been very fortunate with wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people like Angela. Secondly, we want to stress the importance of DMK estheticians about reflecting their local community. Now, some communities have a lot of black people living in the area, and it's a natural. But others, there's very few. And some therapists might say, well, I don't see too many black people or Indian people. But you know what? It's always good to be prepared and know how to work with it. Indian people are a good example. We didn't see a lot of Indian clients here at all. And then we started seeing them, and then some of them were quite well off, and they would tell another one and another one and another, and next thing you know, they're all going to this clinic that they've heard through their community grapevine does DMK treatments with huge results. Same thing in your own community. Now, if you're in a black community, it's easy. You just announce, this is what we do. If you're one in a community that isn't, but partially, of course you advertise it. You show your work. You show what you could do with the people. And they will come, whether you're black or white or Chinese or whatever, or Asian. They will come to you simply because you sound like you know what you're talking about in your marketing, and you show results. And people say, okay, I feel comfortable. I'm going there. To wrap all this up, there is a psychological, political aspect to this, I suppose, although I'm not a politician, certainly. I'm an activist, and that's how I know. That's how I've been in the White House 3 times and other places around the world. But basically, I'm not a politician. But I will have to say that when I started teaching people in South Africa to embrace their own natural skin tone, the very tone that they were born with as a baby. No baby has rosacea, hyperpigmentation, or all these other things. We're all born with a good shot of having good skin, outside of course, the adolescent phase that I went through when I was, horribly broken out. But Nevertheless, most of us were born with good skin. And having said that, whiter is not better. As long as the skin is bright and even in tone and looks good, the skin you're born in is you, and you are beautiful. And that is what you have to present the world, not some fake, bleached out version of something else. That's not the right way of thinking. And that comes from a scientific mind, not political brain. I just always was against that, oh, white is better type of thing, because it isn't better. There's large sections of the world where I'm the minority. Hell, I live in a very wealthy area in Hacienda Heights, beautiful place. And all my neighbors are wealthy Chinese and a few Koreans. And I see the old ladies with the outrageously sun visors walking it up and down doing Tai Chi in the morning in our hills and that. And hi, ni hao, you know, all of this. I'm the minority there. They're the majority. And yet we get along beautifully because we recognize each other. We exchange traditions and ideas. And we're nice people. And basically that's how I think about beauty that resides from your own tone, whatever age you are, texture, all of that is encompassed in how we maintain the status quo of skin. So let's build a confidence, the world of confidence, and that's why we say WOC, World of Confidence, from outside in, because it truly is. You know, we all have heard all of our life, well, she's not very attractive, she's a little overweight, or he's not attractive, he's a little overweight, but he's such a wonderful person inside that we don't care. That may be true. We do all have people in our families that we love to death that aren't exactly gorgeous. I had a brother that was like, and all that. And I loved him dearly, God rest his soul. But the fact is, when you're out in the public or going for a new job or just socially interacting the first time in a long time, let's say you start dating again or your spouse dropped dead or you're divorced or whatever, it's people, how they look at you, they perceive you first. And if you are at your best, it shows. Because if you feel good and you look in the mirror, I look pretty good, regardless of how big you are in size and what your features are or height or anything. You look good to yourself, it shows in your social activity, it shows in your work, it shows in your interaction with other people. You have confidence, and confidence means everything. I'll never forget when I first traveled to Europe, and I didn't have any money back in those days. Now I wouldn't be caught dead outside of anything less than first class, mostly because I'm old and I have to lay down. I would go overseas on a $500 courier ticket, travel all up and down Europe, no money, the little box of slides to show my work, and lectured using a flip chart on stages everywhere, in every country, you know. And I would put on an act in a way because I didn't let anybody know that, you know, I had £5 sterling in my pocket when I'd go into Annabelle's or Tramps in London with the kids. I always had a good tux, good shoes. My daddy taught me that. But I would just not say anything. And they all assumed that I was highly successful. I knew what I was talking about, so they listened to me. And that's called confidence. You walk into a room and you own it. And that's hard to teach, but it's easier to teach once a person comes to that level and they can see in the mirror the person they perceive themselves to be. And then they can go out and be confident. So thank you for viewing, and remember the one thing I always say on every broadcast or podcast that I ever make at the end: knowledge is truly power. Thank you.